Welcome to Overtime Heroics MMA. I'm Mason Shatwell, and joining me today is Cage Warriors fighter Matthew Elliott. How's it going, man?
All's good, man. All's good.
I appreciate your time today. Obviously, it's a weekend, weekend while recording, so I appreciate you taking the time to speak to me. So I'm just going to get straight into it. Your professional debut came just a matter of weeks ago at Cage Warriors. How did it feel getting a win in your professional debut?
It's good, but it's just everything that I was kind of expecting. It's all been mapped out in my head, and it has been for years. So it's of no shock, no surprise, but good win over a good opponent, and I'll take it. That's not. They could have given me a bum, you know.
Yeah.
They could have just given me one of these 0-7 guys or 0-33 guys or whatever they are, and it wouldn't have done anything for me. Like personally, I would have came out of there and been like that doesn't mean anything. So having a tough opponent in Scott, actually, there's a wee bit of gratitude towards it.
What was the game plan going into that?
The game plan's quite literally what you saw. It was go ahead and take him down. I think he's ISK European champ or whatever. It is. So he's coming from a striking background, and the striking is quite crisp. So I was like, I'm not going to entertain it. Just take him down, take him away from his strengths, and just implement my game plan. Just my game plan's not going to change too much based on the opponent, because I'm just going to do what I want to do. My training doesn't change. I train for me. I don't train based on opponents. I'm training, this is what I'm going to do in the fight, and I'm going to put my will on it, and I'm going to implement this game plan. So that was the game plan anyways, and it worked well enough. It was successful.
Who would you say does more of the research on your opponent? Would it be yourself, or would it be your coaches that does more research?
My coaches would do research, but I don't know. I'd be quite fanatic about it. I would just sit and watch them, and just see if there's any things I can pick up on. But at the end of the day, I don't actually think I've ever took anything from it. It's more just watching it to see if there is any tells, or if there's something they're repeating a lot, just to watch out for. But I don't really, so far, I haven't picked up too much from them or from watching the tape, because it's, as I said, it's just I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do.
This was your professional debut in MMA. Did you have any added nerves as it being your debut in the professional ranks?
No, there wasn't. Wasn't any nerves at all. Really, it was quite strange. It's possibly the least nervous I've ever been for a fight. The only time I was really nervous was get my hand dropped. I was sitting there and I was like, all right, okay, because it was a year since last fought. I was like, all right, crap, we're gonna go out here and fight in a second. But the second he called me into the corner backstage, and the Greatest Showman's playing, and I'm a big girl whenever it comes to musicals and stuff, so I was loving it. I was back on. I was like, this is class.
Well, you obviously, with it being on Cage Warriors, for the couple of days before the fight, you was in the Cage Warriors bubble and not being allowed to leave the hotel. What was that experience like? Obviously, being in the bubble.
It was actually really good. It was really professionally run. It was almost just like being on like a hotel resort holiday. You're going, everything from the first to the third floor or fourth floor even was cordoned off for the fighters. So we were just going chilling out in the room, and it was grand. There was no issues with it at all. It was quite enjoyable.
Well, like we said, this was your professional debut, and it was on Cage Warriors, which is the leading promotion within the UK and one of the top in Europe. How did it come about having your pro debut on Cage Warriors?
Pat, Shando, Joe and Paul were over in December, so they were, for the second trilogy, and they basically sat Graham Bowling down and were like, give him a fight. We've got Matt here, wanted to give him a fight, and I think when you've got two coaches as highly regarded as Shando and Pat, it is hard to look past it whenever they're giving you their word. And you have Paul, who's should be fighting for the belt next, and you've Joe, who should be fighting for the belt next at lightweight. So you've got two of the top guys in not even in their divisions, but in the promotion, also telling you, give this guy a shot. I think Graham or Ian or whoever's basically followed through with it has they've just took their word for it. They've took their word as gospel, and thankfully they give me a shot, and I'm really appreciative for it because it could have been running about trying to get a fight in one of these smaller promotions, and look, they're all being cancelled. Very few of them have went ahead. So I am grateful for that. So
You mentioned a couple of fighters' names there. I just wanted to ask, in your opinion, if you could sum up the Irish MMA scene, pro and amateur at the moment, how would you categorise it?
in what ways and
In
compared to
how strong are the fighters? How talented are they coming out of Ireland at the moment?
I think whenever you actually look at it, it's by the end of the year. If you're just looking at Cage Wars are gonna have at least 3 of the belts. So they are. Um, it's it is hard. I'd say within the next 5 years, most of the promotions are just going to be dominated by Irish MMA. North and South, even whenever you're looking at some amateur fights now, there's a lot of the pros I would rather take fights with than some of them amateurs. Some of the amateurs coming through from over this side of the water, they are incredible, especially some of the ones we've coming through from Fight Academy. And so I'd say within 5 years, it's the majority of MMA around Europe is actually going to be dominated by the scene over here.
How did you get involved within MMA in the first place?
It all kind of started off. My dad showed me Chuck versus Tito 2, I think it was, and I was like 5. And he was like, "Oh, really see this here?" And I watched it straight away. I was like, "Want to be an MMA fighter?" But obviously, you're 5 at the time. It doesn't really mean much. And got into judo at 8, and it was always kind of on the back burner that it was always something that I wanted to do. Just done judo, wrestling, and I kind of dabbled in and out of boxing until I was about 13, and then I went up to an MMA gym. So that we get the train down twice a week. My dad would drive me to the train station. I'd get a half-hour train down and back. I'd be doing that two, maybe 3 times a week, just the train. And it all kind of started off there, but for the most part, it was more just as a hobby at that stage because of the judo and wrestling. That's where all my focus and my priorities were sitting with. So it wasn't really until I was about 17 that I decided. I was like, right, okay, let's start putting a wee bit more focus and time into this. And then it was 18, just before, I was about 4 months before my debut, where I was like, right, okay, I really got to start switching all my training over to MMA based training.
Well, we've spoke about how your last fight was your pro debut. Obviously, you was 4-0, I believe, in amateur MMA. So how was the transition from the amateur ranks to then stepping into the professional?
Pro actually seems easier, to be honest. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff to it, but I think just the way it's run, the longer rounds and stuff, it's not that much different. I think when I said pro was easier, I mean as in it's easier to train for. It's easier to drop things, push things to the side, or move things about for training, for the actual competition itself, because you see it more as a career now. But at amateur, it wasn't. It's all the same. At the end of the day, you're getting in the cage and fighting. I think a lot of people forget at the end of the day, it's who's the best fighter. If you could do 25-minute rounds, it's at the end of the day, it's whoever wants it more is going to win. Whoever's got the bigger dog inside of them. So I don't think it ever really changes.
Has there been a fighter that you've looked up to throughout your career and tried to not emulate, but base some of the things you've done off of them?
As a kid, it was always loved Chuck Liddell, but the CT isn't too good there. So emulating style, no, I do my own thing. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't love Chill and Colby. So,
Well, obviously, you're only very early into your career, 5 fights and 1 pro fight. What do you see in your future, say 5 years' time?
in 5 years' time, be 26. We're within 2 fights off fighting for a UFC world title or a major promotion world title. The UFC is obviously the goal. Um, but yeah, it's within the next 5 years, it's just run through anyone they give me, whatever the promotion is, whoever it is, just maul everyone on up until that stage. And by the time I'm 26 or 27, I want to be in that top five kind of realm of things.
Well, is there a name in mind that you want to fight next?
The thing is, it's like I don't know any of these people because like you don't know who signed the cage. Like, see, when you look at Cage Wars or Brave, you don't know who's signed and who's not signed. Basically, with the likes of Cage Wars, you have some of the guys are signed and other ones they bring in for like a fight or just to fight one of their boys. Like, I never signed a multi-fight with Cage Wars. That was a one fight. And I think Scott's been the same, that we've just signed a one fight deal for it. So I can't turn around and say I want to fight any of these boys. But when I look at it, I'm like, I don't rate any of them overly highly, to be honest with you. I look at them and I'm like, they're all favourable matchups for me. And then even when you like look at the likes of the other shows going on at the minute, would be Brave and UAE. You get their boys with padded up 12-0 records, and they're all bums. Like, none of these guys have fought anyone. They're in their 8th and 9th fight. They're fighting guys who are 0-0. Like, Brave had a card, I think it was Brave 47. And you had, I think your kid was like Azerbaijani or something. They had like 25 pro fights, and all of those wins were against debutants or guys who had like 2 fights when you're 25 fights deep in their career. So it's hard to sit and like call people out because I don't think there's going to be too many people putting their hands up to fight me.
Yeah.
And for fights that make sense in my career right now, I can't see anyone that's overly sticking out. And I want to fight ASAP. So if there's anyone ready in 6 weeks time, and there's a show that wants to put on a scrap in 6 weeks time, even 4 weeks time, I'm game. And so they can text me or whatever. But I just don't see anyone. I think I don't rate any of these boys, to be honest with you.
Well, I think I've covered quite a bit, and I just wanted to say thank you for your time and cheers for coming on. How can people find you on social media?
Social media is my Instagram's BD_Elliott, and my Twitter, I couldn't even tell you what it is. I don't really use Twitter. Twitter's more just shite posting, and yeah. So Instagram's BD_Elliott.
Well, cheers for joining, man. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care.